go for a walk. We're going to talk about the Venezuela quakes and what people need to have in mind. So, unfortunately, Venezuela had back to back quakes, and both of them were over a 7.0. Pretty big problem. The other problem is the cleanup effort. So, you know who's going to be footing much of the bill, and it's usually America. Um, will definitely be, helping. And then I read in the chat somewhere on the Associated Press, I was watching their video on the coverage of the Venezuela quakes and the cleanup effort, and I saw somebody say something to the effect of, America owes $400 million to Venezuela or something. I'm like, dude, we're going to spend more than that just helping them get back on their feet. And it's just insane how clueless people really are. And at the same time, I don't even think it's cluelessness. I think it's a concerted effort. People are actually trying to make the United States look bad. Well, it seems to be like what's actually going on out there is you got people spreading lies constantly, and it's always people who are against Trump. Trump this, Trump that, Israel bad, etc. That's what they keep doing. How anybody's falling for this is because they haven't had like a good history lesson. I'm gonna wait a minute because like there's nobody on here, so give me just one moment. I'm gonna get some milk. But I have to stay up for an entire hour because I gotta make sure, like I didn't make it to sleep on time, so I gotta stay up another hour. But give me just 1 minute. I'm gonna grab some milk. All right, so I'm back. I'm gonna talk about the situation in Venezuela, and I'm gonna jump over to my emergency room visit. Talk about that for a minute. So Venezuela has a big cleanup to do, and it's going to take a lot of people. Um, it's just hundreds and hundreds of buildings collapsed, done. It's so tragic. It's so terrible. I can't believe it happened. Um, but imagine how many houses are not properly built in America. Imagine how heavy that problem will hit us in a place like New York or some place that has like a lot of these buildings. Ours are going to do better. They're going to fare better than a lot of the houses that dropped in Venezuela. But places like Detroit, places in like Los Angeles, places with old construction that hasn't been taken care of, that's been totally abandoned, that's gonna just that's gonna be a bad situation. Um, how do we fix all this? How could we have prevented this issue in the future? Because when it hits America, how could we have fixed it? People are thinking, well, how are people supposed to make repairs? How are people supposed to do all that stuff if they don't have enough money? They're getting taxed to hell. Well, we wouldn't need to be taxed this much if the system was more efficient, if it wasn't so bloated. I'll give you an example from my emergency room visits. So I don't want to have to go through the entire story, but basically my tooth hit a breaking point where basically I pulled out most of the nerve on one side of my tooth. Like I said, I was ripping the thing out, but I hadn't hit this situation before on my other tooth. I pulled out most of the nerve, right? And so that gave a nice little tunnel directly to the bottom of my tooth. And that's what gave me such a massive amount of pain. It was ridiculous. So the first day I go to the emergency room, they gave me some kind of mouthwash. I showed you guys this on the stream actually. So they gave me this stuff and they gave me antibiotic, right? Or did they even give me? Yeah, they gave me one antibiotic. I don't even think they gave me a prescription for it. So I didn't even get a prescription on the first day going in. The second day going in, it was because after using that mouthwash, I opened up that section so that all of the air, everything can hit it. And it was like it was really, really bad. It was so much pain that I was screaming and crying into a pillow. It was that bad. Um, this one didn't send me into an emergency room like that. I was just like antibiotic. Okay, I don't even have to go. This one was bad. I go into the emergency room the second time after not receiving antibiotic the first time, except for just one antibiotic pill while I was in there. The second time, I get the antibiotic. Or was it the antibiotic then? Whatever the case, I ended up getting antibiotic, and about $1,300 is now attributed to my credit for having gone to the emergency room for them to give me a prescription. This is the bloat that I'm talking about. I went in there. It took me like a half an hour to 45 minutes, which wasn't all that long considering it's an emergency room, but there was really nothing dire going on there. I was the one in the most pain there. It seemed like everybody else was there for sniffles or just because they want to have a good time and, get treatment at an emergency room and laugh and giggle and stuff and talk about vacations. That's what they were doing. So most of the people in the emergency room were doing. They were all laughing and giggling and, throwing confetti in the air. That's what I walked into for an emergency room. So I had to demand lidocaine. They were about to give me a pill after I demanded something for the pain. Their first suggestion was, here's a pill. I'm like, okay, and my brain wasn't working right because I was in so much pain I could barely think. If I had thought properly, then I would have just thrown Oragel on the thing, but whatever the case. So for them to prescribe to me something to go to the store and then buy it, they charged me $900 plus. That's bloated system. That's fraudulent. That's insane. What took them a half an hour to do, they're gonna try to charge me $1,000. But what would have cost $300 to remove a tooth ended up costing $1,300 in debt because they didn't want to remove the tooth and instead just hand me some pills and make some more sales as the pharmacist. That's a bloated system. How do we fix this? Let's take a look at the bloated system. It's insane. You know, I didn't need the pain medication. You know, there's one, somebody else took one of these. I didn't take one, but I took a half. So as we can see, I have 1, 2, 3. This came with 5. We got 3.5. This came with 5. Somebody else took 1, and I took a half. So imagine that out of my pain medication, someone else actually took more of that pain medication than I have of this. So I haven't actually needed this, but why? Because the antibiotic worked, and all I needed was to throw some Oragel on it. Why am I spending $900+ fucking dollars for a doctor to tell me go grab this at a store, go buy this at a store? That's a bloated system. Tons of owed money shouldn't have been owed. This needs to be looked into. The entire medical industry is fraudulent at this point. I'm calling bullshit on it. You know, going to the front desk at the emergency room, you got 10 fucking people sitting, doing nothing at the front desk. 10 fucking people. 3 security guards. Doing nothing. Just everybody's doing nothing and getting paid for doing nothing. I get it. When there's an emergency room, you gotta have some of those people there. Boom. But they shouldn't be out there being annoying. They shouldn't be laughing and playing and talking about vacations in front of the people that are actually there in pain. They should be there doing their job. Somebody comes in there with severe pain. They should be like, okay, what do they actually need? It's tooth pain? It's mouth pain? Well, let's go ahead and give them some lidocaine. That would be first, right? You would think that would be first. If the lidocaine doesn't work, then give them, a pill for it. But instead, their first assumption for the pain was to give him a pill. Give me a pill. What a bunch of fucking idiots. The system is broken and it's bloated. That's the problem. Another good example of how broken the system is. Why am I taking a day off of work to go get my vehicle registered? I don't have a vehicle right now, but when I had a vehicle, I would have to get it registered on a day that I should be working. Why am I going and spending money to go register something that just all they did was take the identity of the vehicle and link it to me? It didn't take them hundreds of dollars to do it. Why did I spend hundreds of dollars to get a vehicle registered on a day that I'm taking off and missing out $100 plus? The system is bloated. The system is destroyed. Why a DMV worker can't work on the fucking weekends and maybe take Tuesdays and Thursdays and not have them actual work days doesn't make any fucking sense either. So how do we avoid this stuff in the future? We can't with a bloated system. There's too many people that are trying to act like chieftains, and you know what I mean? There's nothing getting done, and they're all getting paid for it. Well, there's people like me that go and actually do dangerous work. I'm going 45 miles per hour on a fucking bike to go and do deliveries, making a tenth of what somebody that's fat and fucking lazy sitting in that fucking chair going all day and not even getting anything done that's useful. Nothing productive is happening. You're like, what the fuck, dude? What? I'm sick of it. This isn't capitalism. This is actually socialism. People keep complaining. They're like, oh, well, capitalism is the reason. No, it's not capitalism. This is socialism and done in a dirty way. Look at how many buildings collapsed in Venezuela. None of those buildings were built right. That was an insane failure. This is why you don't import the third world. They'll build the same fucking shit in your city, in your state. Mud brick entrepreneurs. Figure we better start making some new colleges so they can go and get free scholarships to go to a mud brick university. They can learn how to fucking build with mud brick stuff. But I gotta stay up for like a little bit longer. Hey, how you doing? I gotta stay up for a little bit longer. How many minutes now? I got 47 minutes. Actually, technically 37 minutes. So I got 37 minutes left on the stream. Before I gotta leave and I gotta jump back onto Farmtown. If you guys want to check out Farmtown, you can grab my link in my last video, my live. You can also visit my farm, look at the last video I uploaded. But basically, I'm just waiting another 37 minutes because, yeah, if I don't, then I can miss out on probably $350 worth of gold. So I have to lock that in. But Farmtown is expanding. If you guys want to check it out, go look into my last live stream if it's still up. It was a short live stream, so the one that's called Farmtown, look in the description, and you can grab that link, join via the Phantom wallet. If you do, it'll help me out a lot. Get a referral on it. It counts. But I'm talking about the quakes. I'm talking about the fact that infrastructure is weak. Look around. Notice what happened in Venezuela. It can definitely happen in New York. It definitely can happen in our major cities. You know, it's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when. When this happens, what are people going to do when, you know, what happened in September 11th, one of these years, a couple decades ago, what if that happened times 1,000 across the entire city? You know what I mean? Like, it's not an if, it's a when. Everybody will be in panic. Nobody will know what to do this time. It'll be about 1,000 times worse. So how do we fix this? How do we get ahead of it as a country, right? We can't. We got too many invaders. We need to get rid of these invaders. This shouldn't have been an issue. You know, people who got into the country that aren't supposed to be here. I still see them doing the road work. Like, what the fuck, dude? Every single one of them don't speak English. You know, these government workers that are working on the roads, you guys don't notice it because you guys are in the vehicles. You don't hear them talking, but I can hear them talking because I'm riding the bike. So I can hear them, and they don't speak English. They might wave to you, hello, American, but there's foreign invaders doing work on your fucking roads right now. They're the ones with the jobs. And they've been sending $500 billion a year over to their countries, robbing us blind. So this invasion is number one. We need to take care of this. This is first. We need to get rid of the people that are not supposed to be in this country. We need to get them out. Send them back to their country. They keep complaining, oh, my country is terrible. It's because you left your fucking country. Go back to it. Go build it. You know, $50,000 is like being rich in those countries. If you go back to like Colombia and you got 50,000 USD, you can build an entire farm and an entire, just a kingdom. You're a king in that country now, right? They don't need to continue making 50K a year and sending back 25 grand a year because they're on food stamps, they got free housing, they got all this extra shit. No, wait, the person with a job, he doesn't have free housing because he can afford it, right? No. He's living in somebody else's house. His illegal, intrusive, alien invader wife is getting free benefits, and he's living in that house. He doesn't have to pay. He's just homeless. He doesn't have to record that he actually lives there. There's a loophole. These people have been robbing us, and they've been destroying the medical system too. Fuck, man, you go to a hospital and they're all joking and laughing and stuff in the emergency room while I'm screaming in pain, and I had to demand them to get me lidocaine. The first thought in their head was, here's a pill. I'm like, really? You came back with a pill? Like, lidocaine. Something for my mouth. I got a bad wisdom tooth, you know? The person didn't even speak English. The person that's asking me all the questions didn't even speak good English. So these people that don't like us have invaded the country. They're the ones holding all of the very important jobs, and they're preventing anyone getting a leg up in this country just from doing hard work, because that hard work is undermined by these invaders. You would be getting paid more if there wasn't such competition with people that are an alien intrusive force. Military aged men and women coming in and taking your jobs. The South Park meme came true. Took a gerbs. Yeah, they did. They absolutely did take our jobs, and they've been taking our jobs since back then too. It wasn't just a joke back then. And you know, you look in the future from that time, if you were to have said that this is absolutely what's going to happen, you wouldn't have believed it, because you'd been like, nah, there's too much American pride here. They're not going to give up their jobs. Bro, they were already giving up their jobs. They were allowing 16-year-olds to have to compete with these invading forces to get a regular job. Getting paid $8 an hour on a fucking roof, no harness, because I got to compete and be fast so that the boss can make plenty of money. Ooh, capitalism? No, it was the invasive force. They wouldn't have had an excuse. There would have been room for me to make my own business. And you can go complain to the homeowners that went and paid for this service, but how were they supposed to absolutely know who was on the job, who was in the crew? They bought it through a company. Their contract wasn't, hey, that requires to be a non-foreign invader. That's not in the contract. The contract is, you do my job right and I pay you. You know, it's not the homeowner's responsibility to look into who's on the job. Let me see your IDs. What it came down to was the government not issuing these business certifications, not issuing IDs to these invaders, not issuing CDLs to these invaders. Jesus Christ, man. These people who do not know a lick of English, and they're driving tens of tons worth of equipment down the road. It should have been a common sense, middle of the ground opinion to protect the sovereignty of your country. Other countries are sitting there complaining, America's colonizing everything, while we're importing the third fucking world. And all we did was we gave our money off to these countries. We tried to save the planet. One day, all the truths will converge, and all of the evil in the world will be wiped. And that's why AI. Unfortunately, AI, flock camera, all that big time surveillance. And no one should agree with it. No one should be like, hell yeah, that's what's coming, but that's what I'm saying, is because that's all that can fix this. You know, America First is deputizing Americans to take out confirmed, invasive, intruding, illegal, alien, criminal, people that shouldn't fucking be here. Get them out. You if I was president with Iran, the Iran situation, I would have given him 6 months. I would have dropped pamphlets all over that country. I would have used the driving force of our military. I would have dropped pamphlets in the Iranian, Arabic, or whatever language, and I would have told every citizen to get the hell out of the country, and you got 6 months to get the hell out, and then I would have started dropping bombs. That's what would have happened in Iran if I was the president. And I would have done it way worse, way more hardcore than Trump could have done it, because he was trying to be easy with the targets. He's trying to pinpoint. We got to take out radar systems. We got to take out missile defense mechanism. We got to take out specifics. That's what Trump did. With my plan, it would have been 6 months. Every citizen, get the hell out of here. Go to India. Go to India for a little bit. Go to Pakistan or whatever else country for a little bit. We're going to lay hell to this place if the Iranian regime doesn't fix everything. And they would have all left. And they wouldn't have had to bring very much, right? They're a poor country. They wouldn't have had very much, so it wouldn't have been hard for them to just leave. You could have even incentivized it. You could have been like, every person who goes to India, lives in India or Pakistan, we'll give them, $1,000. We'll fix this real quick. We won't have to, launch 1 billion more missiles than we need to. But these are the things that get lost in the conversation, that probably never come up, because you don't have those kinds of innovative minds. You got people like Scott Bessent, who's still stuck in 100 years ago. He thinks that, hey, let's not give direct payments to people. Let's ensure that it goes through the tax system, and now people have to wait for that money. All right. Yeah, just keep making things more. Just take more time to do things. Just keep making things more inefficient. Keep making things slower. That's the type of thinkers that are around Trump. Trump's not the problem. It's the advisors. It's the people that have been sitting in there for fucking 50 straight years doing nothing but just receiving a paycheck. And they want to do business as usual. And business as usual is never fixing the problem. Just continue pouring in all of these invaders, these third world mud brick entrepreneurs. They know how to build stuff in their own country, but they're going to build your roads. They're going to build your highway systems. Guaranteed those won't crumble during a quake. I know a big bridge that's looking like it's about to crumble. But these are the people that are building our road systems. These are the people that are driving around letting, nails and screws and stuff fall off their truck. The thing that I get pissed off with Americans, though, is that there's Americans that don't actually see that as a problem. They're like, nails falling off the truck? Who cares? You're a poor person. No, you deal with your problems. Dude, it's affected me while I was in a vehicle, too. I got the same flat tires when I was in a vehicle as I was on a bike. It doesn't matter. We don't need that stuff all over the road, but we got Americans that think that, that in many on the conservative side that are sitting there like, yeah, hate is awesome. Fuck that person that's on a bike. While they're working, while they're trying to pick themselves up, you're going to sit there and fuck you because you're on a bike. Dude, you're not a conservative. You're not a follower of Christ at that point. You are nothing. You are totally useless if that's your opinion. Is you see something that, somebody's struggling and actually trying to make themselves better and actually get their leg up on their own, and you're going to say, fuck you. Well, you're the problem. So how do we fix the situation? We need to fix the supply chain, but that's not going to happen because people don't want to actually build anything and people don't want to actually get along. So just this is a guaranteed decline, a guaranteed fall. And the more people that you import, the less you're going to have left for yourselves to gather up, when everything crumbles. So just have that in mind. Those people who want to import the third world, the people who don't want to import the third world, but they think that, hey, we just ignore the problems that are here. That's You're part of the problem too. It's both sides. Both sides of extreme politics are freaking dumb, and they're all falling for the same delusion. The people that want to import the third world are either people who are completely dumb about history, or people that are actually trying to harm the country, to ensure the downfall of America. That's what they're doing. There's only two camps: the stupid and the evil that want to import the third world into Western countries. And we're done with it. Enough is enough. Americans haven't taken true action quite yet. Why are the AI companies so quiet right now? There's a lot of robots getting put out there on the market. A lot of convenient sized robots. But I don't see anybody talking about stuff, like having conversations about their new breakthroughs in AI. Maybe it's because they're done giving us updates. Their next update is going to be 2027, and that's when they're going to have agentic AI in the palm of your hands, and it's going to be able to like do everything from scratch from the beginning. You're going to have it like a chat GPT phone. Remember how they used to talk about the rabbit? It was an AI device, rabbit. Well, you're going to see the real rabbit coming soon, and with full capability. They're just working out the bugs right now, but also they need to make sure that they have control over the person who has access to that software. So that's why they need to make a new phone, and they'll probably sell those phones as AI devices. And they'll start off the phone with an AI. And it'll ask you, how do you want this customized? And you'll be like, blah, 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 and it'll like customize the phone for you like that. But it'll be from the root. It'll start at the root. You are now linked with that AI. May even be in the form of universal basic income. These AI companies are they have a lot of money, but they have the potential to pull in all the power of the entire planet because they have everybody's data. You have a lot of data that might be copyrighted and all that. But what does it matter at the end of the day when, somebody's got enough going on too big to fail and the government can't tell them no? Because like AI is more of like a decision-making process rather than it is a product. Somebody's already consumed it by downloading it. The product is already obtained. It's like now it's a training tool. It's a lot more than just a consumerism item. It's like it's got many different tasks, many different capabilities. But I think that agentic AI in the palm of your hands is going to be just like a phone like this, obviously, but you start off the phone as it's the agent and you are yourself. So you'll probably have to do biometric data, show your eyeballs, show your face, show your fingerprints and all that. You have to be a real human. And that'll be the beginning of the mark of the beast. But you don't need to accept it if you've already learned everything that you need and you're already prepared mentally for what's coming. You will accept it if you are feeble and you're put into that desperate situation. It's a short warning for everyone. That's going to be the mark of the beast. In the future, you're going to require to verify that you're a real human. That's what like KYC was sort of preparing us for. Little did they realize that they're not going to need KYC. They'll just do centralized exchange, you go through Kraken, Coinbase, or something like that, it already has your identity. It's already got your payment information. It's already got the information that it needs to turn you into a real human, into a real entity that they can record and say that that exists, that is a person. Everybody needs to wake up with this whole Venezuela situation. Look at how damaged, look at how destroyed that country is, and watch how long it takes to clean that rubble up. Like, the situation is so bad. I'm watching the crews, like they've almost given up. There's not much that they can possibly do to save those people, but they have to. And I'm looking at the cleanup crew. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, why? There was 20 people standing around waiting. I'm like, there's 20 people that can be pulling 20 rocks every second, pulling rocks out of the pile. Instead, you got some fat guy waltzing around the rubble. Like, what do we do now? That's what's going on in that country right now. There's a bunch of third worlders that don't know what the hell to do. They don't have the equipment to fix this. I do pray for them. I do hope that they get out of the situation, but that's what we don't want to bring here. Incompetence. But that's what's come here. And that's why we got what we got going on. You know, you get everything's bloated in price, everything's bloated in actions. You can't even get lidocaine on time when you go to the fucking emergency room. You're like, oh, I got all this pain. They want to hand you a pill a half an hour later while you're still screaming and freaking out in pain. They want to make you wait an entire half an hour, and they're probably giggling to themselves. They're going to come and ask you questions, these pointless questions in the meantime, and completely waste your time. And all you needed was lidocaine. But we don't have experts in the emergency room. We got a bunch of freaking retards that don't even speak English. They couldn't figure out that for a dental issue, you can give them lidocaine and it might get rid of the pain. I haven't had to use any painkiller. I still got 3.5 of these. Somebody else took one of these, but I took a half of one of these in the last 3 days since I got this thing. I haven't needed it for the pain. That's only for an emergency, just in case it does happen. But lidocaine and Oragel worked. Yet the emergency room couldn't figure that out, and they charged me almost $1,000 for them to tell me, hey, go to the store and buy this pill, antibiotic. Here, go to the store, buy this painkiller, buy this muscle relaxer. That's what they did. For $1,000, bro. That is a lot of fucking money that a lot of people owe, and they shouldn't owe it. And these people who have been getting paid to not do their job right need to be fired immediately, and you need to put an American in that spot instead. You got a woman that doesn't speak English asking an American all these extra questions while he's sitting there in pain, like, bro, I can speak for a limited time right now. Get me something for the pain, please. Okay, do you vape? Really? Go get me something for the fucking pain. It took me an entire half an hour to get something for the pain. It's insane. But that's the state of the world right now, is that we've got a bunch of idiots, a bunch of incompetent losers that are getting free paychecks to do the job that I would actually do quite well. The greatest part of that experience going to the emergency room was as she's like, you're being so rude. And I'm just like, or I forget how she said it, but I have it in recording. And I'm just like, I'm not here for you to assess my level of rudeness. I'm here for you to help me. You're the one getting paid. And after the fact, she was looking at me like, oh, yeah, he's right. Everybody's doing their fucking job incorrectly or just insufficiently. Like, imagine how incompetent these people that are in charge really are. People start getting the sniffles, COVID. Yeah, it was a terrible. The first run of COVID, it was terrible. It was like it hit me hard, but it was a temporary thing. You get over it. It was just like the common cold, just a stronger version of the common cold. Yeah, it can affect people. It can, you know, um, damage them mentally quite a bit. But throwing them into a hospital bed, putting them on remdesivir, thinning out their blood, I think it was, or they did something to where if you were to put a um, uh, the the oxygen pump that they use apparently, what's that called? Whatever, the oxygen pump that they put on you for that, that it would blow out the lungs and stuff. It'd pop blood vessels, etc. Like, holy crap! Why would you do that? But then on top of that, a brand new vaccine, brand new technology, mRNA technology. Trump Trump was trying to develop the research around it. He was trying to develop something that should have been groundbreaking research, and it was, and it still is. mRNA technology isn't invalid. It's just the point is that it may have been a manufactured virus to begin with, and then you're making a vaccine against that virus, but it was manufactured to begin with, so it couldn't have been something that was found out in the wild because the type of COVID that they found was one that gained function that it wasn't supposed to in a natural environment. They forced it to gain function. So it's not a naturally occurring sort of a disease. COVID doesn't even exist anymore. Who's catching COVID now? Like zero people. But that's due to the bloat in the system. People should have been able to explain that mRNA technology, the vaccine technology, is a new technology and there's risk involved with it. They couldn't even tell people that. That's full level of incompetence. That is trying 0% of the way to do anything legitimate. I'd like to see the pardons that Fauci got removed. There should be no fucking reason why that dude should be walking free right now. He destroyed this economy. He destroyed the future of so many. He killed people with his disinformation. His pardon should be null and void. The incompetency of the people that are in power is sickening. Because all he had to do was say the vaccine is not 100% safe. It may be effective. These things were easy to say. But instead, they wanted to claim that is absolutely effective. It's been proven. It's safe technology. Nothing is safe on the first run. When you're starting warp speed, when you're developing something for the first time, that product, especially if you're going to be injecting into somebody's veins, into somebody's body, is not absolutely safe. Doesn't matter what side of science you're on. The first product is never safe. That's why I don't sell the bag. That's why I don't sell my bags immediately, is because it's not 100% safe. It's not a guarantee that, hey, I fixed every crevice. I made sure nothing will ever fall out of this bag. That's why I haven't sold any of my bags, is because it's not certified by myself. I'm not going to certify this bag to be sent out because it's not guaranteed nothing will ever fall out. There's no liners in here. You know, the first product's never going to be 100%. And especially when it comes to vaccine technology, that when they're doing this, they're getting little shards of metal stuck in there. There's oopsies, one in, you know, maybe 1,000, maybe 500 vaccines. You're going to drop a couple extra pieces of metal in it. That's going to hot shot somebody and, you know, cause myocarditis, or what were these other things that people were getting? Pericarditis and stuff. Likely attributed by the vaccines. But it took the bloat in the system for us to completely not recognize that as fact, as nothing is 100% is efficacious and totally safe, especially on the first run of manufacturing. Because there's trial and error that comes along with it. When you're researching a vaccine, there's trial and error. You're doing stuff in petri dishes, and you're doing stuff that doesn't involve real humans or real animals yet, and then you deal with the real animals, and then you deal with the humans. What they found was it had negative side effects on mice. So we already had that data. Okay, then why didn't we talk about that? It's not 100% safe. We should have never been under the impression that these vaccines were safe. And it was definitely not safer than just simply getting herd immunity, because that's where we're at right now. Understand, that's why herd immunity, that's basically what's happened right now, is that the virus is just weak. It doesn't affect us because enough of us have caught it and then gained an immunity to it, so we don't catch it anymore. That's herd immunity. So now, because I can't catch it, because I'm immune to it, because my body developed natural immunity to it, well, that means I can't pass it to somebody, because it won't thrive. It won't multiply in my system. You see? That's how herd immunity works, and that's just how we got over pretty much everything. Something like bubonic plague, you can't get over that by herd immunity. You know what I mean? You're not gonna be able to get over the bubonic plague. That's a whole different situation. That's a mortality rate of 80%. COVID was like a 0.0000001% chance or something of actually dying from it. It wasn't worth it to go and shoot up people with a completely experimental, brand new type of research into their body, into their blood system. You can't do that and just claim it's going to be safe. People were shooting up their 3-year-olds with this. That's because of a bloated system. Instead of giving somebody lidocaine, they're going to give them a fucking pill. When I don't do pills, I don't do drugs. You know, likely, because I mean, like, what did it took? Like, it was like 20 minutes after I took the painkiller that they gave me. Probably about 25 minutes. I think it was right at 25 minutes. That's when I started feeling it, but it was like feeling it as in I didn't feel so much pain. But the pain never actually fully went away until I put lidocaine on it. So I was correct before the doctor was correct. That means the doctor isn't doing their job right. Why is this person working in the emergency room to begin with? Why is that person making likely like 60 grand a year in the emergency room just to laugh at patients, just to go talk about vacations in the other room while the patient is sitting there freaking screaming in pain. That's not the type of people we want in this industry. But we also don't want those types of people in our country. Get the fuck out, because that wasn't illegal. Guarantee it. If you're here illegally, get the fuck out. If you can't speak English, don't be driving. If you need to get a job, if you need to get a ride from somebody else that speaks English to go to your job, also pay your taxes and pay double. And I shouldn't be, at that point, I shouldn't be paying income tax as a citizen. If you're here illegally, you should be paying those taxes for me. High tariffs on the stuff that we import. That's how it should be. Why am I paying an income tax at all? When my fucking jobs, I'm competing with people that are receiving benefits in one way or another on that tax that's getting pulled out of my check. Here's one thing. So you got Jose, he's working at a construction job, right? Making 30 grand a year. Decent. But somebody's going to look at that and say, you can barely afford the rent. He's not paying rent, dude. And he doesn't have to receive benefits either. So this is how they do it. Jose links up with Juanita, and Juanita gets the free benefits and splits it up with the dude making the 30 grand. So she's getting him free housing, but he doesn't have to report that. He can say that he's homeless and go and live in that house and benefit from cheaper food, half-priced food, because he's having to pay for some stuff. But he's getting to save up about 20 grand that year. And every year he's able to save up an extra 20 grand because he doesn't have so many expenses. That's all on your dime, guys. The deck is stacked against regular Americans. Not only have our families been split apart, male and female do not partner up anymore when it comes to American. We're talking black and white, just regular Americans. Much of America is not partnering up with each other. But their couples, their males and females, are linking up with each other. And just like an organized crime syndicate, they're all scamming us. They go to the emergency room. They get their stuff fixed, and then they go laugh about vacations and stuff. Yay, we're going to have vacation. I'm going to be back here next week. That's the kind of stuff that I was witnessing while I was in that emergency room while I'm sitting there in pain. And they couldn't even figure out a fix for me. They gave me a $1,000 bill and a letter to go buy something at a store. That has nothing to do with we need to give them more money. That has nothing to do with we need to give me more money. That has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with the wrong people in charge. They're not doing their job right. There's no oversight. Why is there 10 people sitting at a fucking desk at the front office? These are the things that we need to change. And how do we fix it? We should have went with Trump. Everybody should have went behind Trump and backed him up. Not enough people did. So we had pushback. So, and don't blame yourselves if people haven't been up to speed with it, with the Trump train. That's fine. Just kind of open your brain up now and realize where we're at. It didn't take left or right issues to get us to anywhere. Importing the third world into your country and allowing them to invade is not a leftist ideology. Nobody agreed with that ever in democratic history. Ever. There's never been a time where communists are like, hey, let's look at China.
Are they saying import the third world, import the rest of the world? No. That's not a lefty talking point. The left side, the Democratic Party, has been hijacked by globalists. And they want to keep robbing you, and they want to keep robbing my future. The rest of the not very much of a future that I have left, unless I get truly lucky. And this isn't something, oh, I just talked about this stuff today. I've been making videos about this stuff for like the last straight year, going live and having these conversations. But for a decade before that, decade and a half before that, I've been talking about this stuff. Most people didn't want to hear about it because it wasn't an interesting talking point for them. So it was just, let's party, I guess. But I'm going to find somebody at that party that wants to talk about some stuff. Usually wasn't about deep politics, but it was about just the surface level stuff. What was it? Should we have drugs at parties? Should we just like have weed and alcohol at a party and be like cool with that and nobody else has anything else? That was the kind of conversations that we would have if I ever dug into an intellectual conversation with someone. Just trying to, ease the tensions, make things more moderated, I guess, but where everybody can agree. Weed and booze and some psychedelics. Might do some acid and shrooms and have a trip out or something. But we're not bringing heroin, cocaine. We're not bringing these drugs that are just basically den drugs. There's a difference between psychedelics like mushrooms, acid, even ecstasy to a certain degree, and then den drugs, stuff that like oxycontins and heroin, meth, all that stuff that you require to be part of like a trap house or a den to be like attributed with those people or involved with those people. That's how I see drugs. Yeah, like I have a little bit of pressure in my mouth, but it's not bad. And all I did was Oragel. I haven't used anything for the pain. Well, that as well as vape. But just imagine that all it took was lidocaine, and the emergency room can get that. So it's about bloat. It has nothing to do with more money here, more money there. I think people get me wrong when I say the system is broken. This isn't capitalism. What I'm saying is absolutely true. This isn't capitalism. It's already become socialism. Only the favorites are becoming successful or getting assistance. Those people who are getting assistance successfully and basically at this point frauding the entire country, because the only people getting those benefits are the ones that have been guided through it. This is exactly how you put on the paperwork and make sure stay to the T on this, stay to the T on that. These people are basically trained into getting those benefits. That's how you get benefits. You don't get benefits because, hey, you're a person in need. The government never tries to reach out to try to help you. It, that's where people have to understand. There's people that do need help, but the government doesn't reach out to help you. You go to a hospital, you might get hit by a fucking train. You might be missing half your limbs, but if you don't go and ask the government for help and know what to say and all this stuff, like apparently, there's people that haven't had legs, but the insurance company that they're trying to go through says that they do have legs. And so they don't qualify for that treatment or something. That's the kind of shit that's going on. This is a bloated system. There's not enough oversight, and it's nothing about the money at the end of the day because the money is just getting robbed. The money's there. There's enough money getting pumped into that shit. We're getting taxed enough. It's just not being allocated properly, and the people that are in charge are fucking everything up. What are their qualifications? They don't smoke weed. You smoke weed, man, then you don't qualify to do any sort of medical procedure. You can't tell somebody that they need lidocaine rather than a pill. No, you're not capable of doing that because you have weed in your system. I mean, I'm not even trained. I've never been to school for medical stuff. I took an exploratory program for 3 days at a technical high school. I don't think that qualifies as credentials exactly, but somehow I know better than the emergency room person. then again, that job isn't that easy because I mean, you have to still see some gruesome things. I'm sure she's had to see some gruesome things, but dude, that was an easy fix, man. Fuck, man, I could have gone to the store and got Oragel, and that would have probably been fine. I was just freaking out because it was all at once, and I was like, my brain wasn't working. It's all at once. It's like I hit the nerve, like I went below the nerve, and it was going to the next nerve. Like there has to be something else going on below the root of the actual tooth, because as soon as I exposed just like the bottom of the tooth, because I can feel it with my tongue, there's like a hole there now. That's when the pain started. And then there's another tooth that also might actually have issues that I'm kind of worried about because I might have to get that one fixed too. And that might require an actual root canal. So, because I don't want to get rid of that tooth. That's not a good tooth to lose. But yeah, I got problems that stack up, and these wouldn't be stacked up problems if I had, if the government wasn't so bloated and I had some kind of actual conversation with somebody that worked in one of those offices. Every single time I talk to those offices, where some lady's sitting at a desk, it's her fucking job to just sit there and type stuff and then, repeat what's on the screen, basically. Like, she ain't even asking me the right questions. I fucking asked them, I'm like, can you help me through this application with me on the phone? And she's like, absolutely, you can do that at your appointment. And I fucking try to call them, and the number shuts off, and they didn't call me. Same day, they're supposed to call me at this time. I called them too, and they didn't call me. They didn't answer. It shut the thing off. It was on the right day, right time, and I called them after the fact a couple of times. 3 times I called them in that day. But then I get a letter in the mail saying I'm denied because I didn't fill out the application. So they lied to me while I was setting up an appointment through the phone. Can we do this on the phone when I get the appointment? When the appointment comes due, I'm on the phone with them. Can they help me through this application? The lady said yes. It'll just take a little extra time to get through it because you haven't completed the application yet. And I said, yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm putting everything correctly down on this application. So are they able to do that with me? She said, absolutely, yes. Then I get a letter saying that, oh, because you didn't already apply, you're denied. We can't help you. Are you really that incompetent? Are humans really that incompetent? Or do we just have the wrong people in charge? Because I was told clearly that somebody would be available to help me with that process over the phone on my appointment. But this is a steady trend, same thing over and over and over again, that the wrong people are in charge, nothing's getting done. Not because the money's not there, it's because the wrong people are in charge. It's because the oldest among us decided that Generation X was a great generation to put in charge, and then they decided, well, hey, we're a bunch of freaks, so we're going to put a bunch of freak millennials in there too. So we're going to keep all the freaks over here, and then, you had LGBTs basically just got a bunch of the minority of the Generation X population that actually decided to stay freaks, their support. So there's like the side of Generation X is like a bunch of hypocrites, worse than boomers. I've said a lot of things about boomers, but in reality, it's actually Generation X, but boomers enabled them. So when I said boomers were just like a bunch of, let's hand the torch over here and then not take any accountability for having handed that torch to the wrong fucking person. So we got a lot of people in charge right now that shouldn't be in charge, but it was because they were the favorites. Because they licked the ass of a boomer, and I didn't. That's why. So the favorites, the ones that were the nicest, the one that, it's okay, guys, the fucking gayest of them all, ended up being in charge. You see now? And because I was the one pointing it out, they decided to make sure that hell no, we will not hand him a torch. Because he'll call out exactly what happened. All right, it's been an hour, and my timer has just completed, so I'm going to leave. But I appreciate you joining. Hopefully Venezuela will get through this, and they can clean up that rubble, but I think it's going to be weeks. It's going to be weeks of them trying to pull people out. Something, maybe even over 10,000 people may have lost their lives. And that's incredibly sad. But of course, you know, Mudbrick University may have a new opening at some point. People start learning how to build their houses a little better. That was way too many buildings to be falling down at once. That was insane. Even the buildings that stayed up, they're all shook up. The windows, like full walls, are just completely gone. But this just happened hours ago. So, anyways, I'm gonna go. Have a good day, and yeah, join me on Farmtown. Go to my last live stream if you want to check it out. It's a decent game. It's on Solana. It launched on Pumped Off Fun. It graduated and then like continued with their project. So now we're looking at the beginning of the stages of a new project that's play to earn, free to join. Anyways, have a good day. Thank you.